welcome to today's video. It's July 3rd right now as I'm recording this. I just picked up the Maze of Malcor, the latest edition or release supplement for Frostgrave, on the 30th of June, a couple days after it released. And actually I've been looking forward to this and thought I would digest it over the last couple days and wanted to kind of review it with you real quick to see if you let you guys know what it's about, see if it'll be something of interest to you. Honestly, I really like the game Frostgrave, so adding this is a spectacular. No. Hello, welcome to today's video. As I'm recording this, it's July 3rd. It's been a few days since I picked up the Maze of Malcor. That was on 30th of June, and only a couple days after it was published. I was really excited to get it because I was looking forward to this all month long. I saw a couple early, what I'll call leaks, previews, and couldn't wait to get my hands on it. So I've got it, and as you know, I like Frostgrave as a game. I was really looking forward to the supplement coming out, and I'm really glad I picked it up. I wanted to review it with you guys to let you know kind of what's in it and how this applies to Frostgrave as a game, because Frostgrave treats things a little differently than most other games we play. If you're interested, probably not a bad place to hop in, but nowadays anyway. Alright, so let's take a look real quick. The artwork in this book edition is very, very brilliant. I don't know, for some reason this seems to be a little brighter. I guess it's I don't know, it pops more than the previous artwork. It's still all good. It's just that I really like the colors that they use here. Now, it's a very simple book. It's actually thicker than the ones before, because what has actually happened here? This is almost a I don't want to call it a second edition to Frostgrave because it isn't, but it is a supplement that actually addresses some of the conversation that's been going on over the last couple of years since Frostgrave was released, things that could be better. And so the author actually went and gave us a lot of hard thought and put some changes in that are entirely optional. That's the one thing that I like about this system. Even in the core rule book, it goes through all the rules in not too large a number of pages, but it also lets you know that you can make some tweaks and changes to make it more fun, because the whole point of the game is fun. And this supplement continues in that tradition. So this first thing it starts with are the rules updates. Now, there are actually very few game breakers or game changers here, but I think they do actually improve the game. In my experience anyway, I think that, I don't know what my group is going to do. I'm all for using these rules updates. I think it does add flavor, but you can work without them if you want. The first one is placing treasure tokens. Normally in the game, each player places 3 treasure tokens. In this update, they change it to placing 1 in the center of the table, and each player then places 2 additional. And the first one has to be within 8 inches of the first treasure token, but more than 6, and the other one could be anywhere on the board more than 6 inches away. That kind of ensures that the table is a little more evenly spread out with treasure tokens, and you're more likely to have to meet in the middle, if you will. Now, some of the games that might not be as much fun, it might be a little harder to get the XP you're looking for. It might be easier to dash off a couple of the edge treasures in some games. Here, there's going to be a few of those opportunities. But again, it's all part of the narrative, so you can add this or not, your choice. The next one is securing treasure. This is almost a clarification, really. Essentially, the rules haven't changed much. At the end of the game, basically, anyone who's actually is carrying a treasure gets to secure it. But if the game ends with only one player with models on the table, he can roll a die for each of the treasure tokens that's on the board. Basically, on a 15 plus, he actually gets that treasure token. So it's not a guarantee just because you're the last man standing that you get all the rest of the treasures. It's only 15 plus, roughly 2/3 or 1/3 of the time. Other than that, treasure's lost. You haven't gotten it. Essentially, the snowstorms roll in and keep you from getting to your objectives. This is one. The stat rolls, automatic success and failure. I really like this addition. Essentially, anytime a natural 1 is rolled, it's a failure. Anytime a natural 20 is rolled, it's a success. This is actually good because there are a lot of times opponents will empower a spell that requires a will roll to resist and empower it to the point that you cannot beat it. You'll require a value, a 21 or higher. You can't get that with all your bonuses. This actually makes it at least a 5% chance that no matter what he's cut to or he's empowered to, you will be able to succeed against a will check. So that's actually pretty, I think that's a really good idea. And I like the idea of a 1 always being a failure, because no matter how many bonuses you have, 1, it goes back to the whole almost D&D kind of thing. 20 is a crit kind of thing, and 1 is a fumble. In this case, there's no penalties for rolling a 1, but it just doesn't go off. In the case of spells or stat rolls. In the case of 20s, there actually is a crit rule in the normal rule book. But here we're talking about just stat rolls in general, automatic successes and failures. Experience points has changed a little bit. In the original release, one of the things that was kind of, in my opinion, a little unbalanced was that a wizard, basically your leader, can earn a lot of XP, 140 points, just by killing an opponent's wizard. That's 80 points for killing their apprentice, 40 points for killing another enemy soldier. The thing is that you only need 100 to get to the next level, and the Elementalist school, that's one of the 10 schools, that was the only one that had a lot of reliable high damage output spells. The rest, you had to use a combination of certain spells to even potentially get a chance to kill something. You usually, other schools are buffing or your other characters or penalizing your opponents. So the mage himself isn't really doing the damage. So those with elementalists, or the ones that had to take elemental spells to be competitive, if you will, really end up getting the experience that they needed. And it kind of forced you a little bit away from the narrative you may have wanted to create with your character by forcing you to have an elemental spell. But anyway, it's actually pretty good now. Just like before, you get 10 points for every time you cast a successful spell. Unless, here's the change, it only required a 5 or a 6 to cast. Then you don't get experience points for that. Figuring it's easy, you don't get any points for casting an easy spell. However, what's a neat addition is you get 5 points if you fail the spell and actually took damage from that. That's one of the mechanics in Frostgrave. So I like that addition. So yeah, they took away the getting XP for easier spells, but they gave you back a way to get XP for hurting yourself accidentally from failing spells. Hey, think about it, you learn from failure, right? So I like that. There's still 50 points for taking a treasure, and now it's 5 points for taking out any of the random monsters that are on the table, which is something that wasn't there before. So this is actually gives a steadier and more balanced way of getting XP for all the players. Now, there's one thing they put in here, and that is that this assumes you're using the new treasure token placement. So the other thing it gives you is just 40 points for the wizard being in the game. Again, there's fewer treasure by 1, and so they kind of make up for that a little bit. But if you use the old treasure method, you just basically use the same table, you just don't get the 40 XP for participating, for the wizard participating. Now the other thing that is, they limited 300 experience points as the max you can earn during any one scenario. So you're not going to have guys going up 5 or 6 levels if they do happen to do really, really, really well when they're casting like crazy and being successful and killing the creatures left and right. So that kind of slows the progression down a little bit, makes it a little harder for one player to run ahead of the rest, but it'll still happen, just not as easily. I like that change. Casting rolls, they just kind of clarified how to treat casting rolls. Again, trying to make it a little more balanced and easier to avoid will rolls, problems and things. Scrolls, they clarified that a little bit more on how to use it. My favorite change, though, is the uncontrolled creatures, because it used to be a 10-inch line of sight maximum you had to consider. If something was within line of sight and within 10 inches, the creature could react to it. Now, it just has to be in line of sight. Doesn't matter how far away it is. It will move toward the closest figure in line of sight, even if it's across the table. So I think that's a big improvement. This also takes into account the fact that some monsters can actually shoot, and that'll be in there. So good changes overall. There's some additional things about balancing scenarios where you have one player has a higher level wizard by a lot than the other one. A neat little way to do it, to give the lower level wizard kind of an extra creature to play with as a part of the warband almost, to control as he tries to interfere with the other wizard. Black market contacts is another interesting change, because between games you can spend your money to get any magic item you want, any grimoire or spell book you want to learn new spells, buy any scroll, anything you want. The problem is that kind of really rewards you for getting gold, and you start wanting to sell off the magic items that you don't want just so you can go buy something else. It takes away a little bit from the adventuring and sport of trying to hopefully finding the treasure you wanted. So here they introduce this black market contacts, and I think it's a good change. Again, optional. Basically, if a player wants to go buy magic items, they make 4 rolls on treasure tables, the different treasure tables, ignoring the gold results, and those are the treasure items that are available to buy for that player during the between game action phases. Each player rolls those separately, so that each player will have access to a different set. Maybe you'll find what you want, maybe you won't. So I think that actually might introduce a little more fun to the game, so that you don't automatically have a wizard who has all of his guys equipped with the best magic weapons and the best magic armor all across the board. It just, I think, allows a little more variety and variability. So that's how it pretty much goes. Now the campaign here is new. It's neat. This is a 12 scenario campaign, and it's the meat of the book. It's a huge portion of the book is about the actual the campaign, where you're going through this newly revealed, it's basically a college of magic, and it starts out pretty normal, as you expect, little adventures, but then it takes a turn halfway through where you start encountering the shades of the old headmaster and the old spell school leaders, and it becomes a little more dangerous. Actually, this is the campaign I think that's probably more dangerous than any of them that have been come out so far, and it actually allows you to handle this 2 ways. The first way is like any other previous adventure or campaign, where all of the non-player monsters that are in the campaign are controlled through a random mechanism or a priority action mechanism, where if this, then the thing will do this. If conditions are this way, it'll do this. And it just goes down a list of here's what the creature will do until you finally figure out what action it's gonna take. What this campaign allows you to do is have one player, instead of running a warband, actually run the creatures and the, if you will, the bad guys, and I think I will enjoy doing that. So I'm hoping with my group that I'll run this campaign and I'll be playing the denizens of the college, university here. So that's gonna be kind of fun. Now I'm not gonna go through all the details because there are a lot of different scenarios, but they do add a lot of interesting terrain, a lot of interesting settings. They add 5 special characters that are actually depicted in the book, one for each new, what they call Lost School of Magic, and those you'll actually fight those during the course of the campaign. Now, the fun part of this is that you have 5 new schools of magic, schools of the Pentangle. You have an Astromancer, basically star-related type things, Distortionist, basically twists reality, if you will. You have the Fake Caster, who interferes with chance. A Sonancer, which is essentially a sonic mage. and Spiritualist, which is not quite a summoner, but aligned to it. And they give you basically 6 spells for each school. Now, normally a school has 8 spells. These are not quite as strong. You can use these to make a new wizard, and actually use a wizard with these as your school, but it's not designed for that. And of course, these will be a little bit weaker, but of course, if you're trying to go with a character concept, that's what you want to do. It's a lot of fun to do it that way. So, again, I don't want to go over the specific spells, but there are 6 per instead of the normal 8 per, and they affect a lot of different things that you haven't been able to affect in the game before. Now, there's of course new treasure table, and actually there's 2 of them, so there's quite a bit of new treasure in this particular edition, or sorry, not edition, this particular supplement. Spoiler alert! The next part of this video is going to go over the guys in the Bestiary, the different opponents. If you don't want to see that, now is the time to stop. Guys, if you're part of my gaming group, please don't watch the rest. I really want to surprise you guys with what's in here and as we go through the maze in our campaign. Thanks. Looking forward to kind of playing with that. But where the fun is actually in the Bestiary. I'm going to show you one of the pictures, for example. This is what's called a Collegium Porter. It's a construct used to basically just store things and follow the wizards around, whether they're students or the teachers, to be available for whatever they need. Now, there are a lot of these within the campaign, and they can be anything, like a furniture type of thing. Think of, chairs and desks and bureaus, and like this looks like almost like a writing desk. Wardrobes, things that you would use to store things in, and they can actually carry 3 potions and scrolls. Unlike normal creatures, when you encounter these, you kill them, you leave them on the table, and they can be looted for a magic item. It would be a scroll, magic scroll, a random one. But if you actually are able to control one and capture one, if you will, you can use it as a member of your warband, and it can carry 3 potions and scrolls and be kind of follow your guys around, giving them the items they need to use. So kind of fun that way. But the Bestiary has a lot of new things. There's only a few repeats for the flavor of this particular scenario, such as the Banshee and a Wraith. But there's a large carnivorous bird, the Acris bird. There's an advisory council, one of the group of wraiths that are special to the headmaster. Very deadly. Immaterial, they do basically do double damage in the hit. They're immune to non-magic weapons. Can't be mind controlled, can control undead. It's really, really dangerous. Each of the 5 heads of the schools each have their own shade, so they've got a selection of spells they have access to. Pretty powerful, strong stats and strong abilities, considering again they're immune to non-magic weapons and they can move through terrain. There's a lot of potential there. Again, the Banshee's a repeat from the original. Bogman is sort of a construct. Think of you've heard of clay golems, flesh golems. Well, this is almost a peat golem. Think of a sacks filled with peat to kind of make a humanoid-looking construct. That's what that would be. The Blood Wave is a cool new creature that think of almost like a slime that it tries to suffocate the opponent, and you can't crit this thing, you can't hurt it with normal weapons, you can't mind control it, you can't poison it. It's really deadly. It's only moves 5, but it's got a strong fight, low health, but strong will. There's a lot of danger in that particular one. I kind of like that. Coleman is a different variant of a construct. There's a Collegium Porter we already talked about. Glass Spider is another construct. Mantodeus are kind of a mantis creature. It's called a new insect creature. We kind of need to find some models for that. Phase Cat. If you ever played D&D and saw a blink dog, that's kind of what these are. They can actually teleport into combat. They're oversized house cats. If you're familiar with what a lynx is or bobcat, it's probably more like what these are. Shrieking Wolf, that's another construct. Wolf is a gnome, just a name. it could be any kind of a creature. It could be a bear, an otter, or something. Whatever the sculptor, magic user wanted it to be. But it does special attacks with a special shriek ability. Starfire Elemental is a special elemental, can be summoned by the Astromancer. So a new little creature, really low health, really high fight, can do damage, but it's easy to kill. It's kind of like a glass cannon. And then, of course, the main Malcor, he's the one you got to watch out for. So these are, it's a good solid bestiary with a whole bunch of new creatures, which I'm really going to enjoy, and a campaign that I cannot wait to GM. I'm looking forward to doing that. Now, you don't want to buy this and you can't get started with just this book. You need to actually get the base rules, and then you can add in the additions to this. So you're always going to need the base rule book. So instead of doing a whole new edition with a whole new rule book, they rely on the first one and suggest tweaks with the new rules set in here. That's the way Frostgrave handles their kind of updates. So I'm looking forward to this. Can't wait for the next. We're currently doing a Lich Lord campaign in our group, and when that's over, I'm hoping to run this one. I've got some projects in the works to make some of the terrain and creatures in this bestiary, so that we can have a go. All right. Well, hope you found that useful. If you are interested in Frostgrave, even if you're not, just kind of getting some ideas for things you may want to do in some of your other games, as far as especially if you want to create your own creatures or your own. Get some confidence to maybe do some of your own special rules. Anyway, take a look at Maze of Malcor if you get a chance, especially if you are a Frostgrave player. I think you're going to enjoy it. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.